wealth distribution's completely out of line today.
Et tu, brute! Even you, Brutus! Started my day with Ace Ventura trying to indoctrinate me into socialism. Ended my day with Jesse Ventura trying to indoctrinate me into socialism. Comuniști împuțiți! Puh! The spit is to ward off evil spirits. I personally do not understand why I had such a bad day, because in between I also had to go shopping, and it was clear sky, and all of a sudden like the flood came. It was like it's like the day God lied. He said there will be no more flood. No, in Romania there was. I'm sick and tired of talking about socialism on my channel. Like there's so many videos that you can make until you super saturate the market. Like at one point, there's probably a subscriber of mine that's like, oh, we made another socialist video. But I have to because, maybe there's a new subscriber that thinks it's a good idea. So I want to explain to them why it's a bad idea. And you know what's really interesting, right? Think about this. If you're an Amerikanski, and you go to your grandfather, or better yet, if he's still alive, your great-grandfather, and you ask him about socialism, he's going to be able to accurately explain to you why it's cancer. They didn't call it the Red Plague for nothing back then. And I honestly think that this is one of the reasons why the left, especially in campuses, like in progressive environments, the far left, why they are going to encourage people to stop talking with their racist family. There's even articles online, especially on publications meant for teenagers. You will see that if your uncle is racist, stop talking to him. So that you don't talk with that grandfather or great-grandfather, so they can explain to you why it's bad. But anyway, okay, so wealth distribution is completely out of line today, he says. Well, compared to where? Like, if you're in America, it's far better than it is in China. It's far better than it is in North Korea. Hell, it's probably far better than it is in Romania. So you have to answer like, wealth distribution is out of whack. Compared to where? And not to mention, you're an actor that probably makes multi-millions dollars. And some people will say, well, why can't a spinal surgeon make as much as you? I don't see you like feeling concerned and giving, all the money you don't need to charity, but you expect other people to do that by giving them to taxes. And then it's like, compared to when? I mean, wealth distribution now is far better than it was in the past. So this is like a real emotional statement that he starts all of this speech on. And we as the viewers have to assume that is true.
In fact, people have talked to me about the minimum wage, and I've shocked people and said, maybe what we ought to have is a maximum wage. I mean, if somebody makes $100 million a year, that's not enough. What could you possibly need if you made $100 million every year?
What an excellent question. You know what? I genuinely do not know what to answer. But luckily, I got my little book on how to explain economics for the leftists, and maybe we can find out the answer to this very difficult question. What do people do with more than $100 million per year? Wow, this is a tough one. I don't think even the book has the answer. Oh, no, there it is. It says right here, none of your fucking business. It's not your business what other people do with their money, you moral busybody. And now I want people to notice something very interesting. Why do you think he chose $100 million? I mean, he could have chosen $10 million as maximum wage. He could have chosen $1 million as maximum wage. I mean, I personally, and I think you, dear listener, don't see what people can do with more than $1 million per year. I will tell you why he chose 100 million and not 1 million. Because he probably makes more than $1 million per year, and what you will notice is that most authoritarians do not want to be hit by the cruelty laws that they are proposing. He probably has friends that are making $10 million per year, so of course he doesn't want them to be hit by this measure. So let's raise the bar all the way up to 100. But for the sake of the argument, what do people do with more than $100 million? Well, I don't know, like if you're talking about a person who's a factory owner and produces automobiles, maybe he wants to expand his business, maybe he's going to purchase additional factories in other nations, maybe he puts some of that money into research so he can produce better automobiles. No? Maybe a government gives in to pressure from people like you. It's like, oh my god, my pollution, and forces the factory owner to install filters. Luckily, he's got some money in the bank, so he can do that for all the factories that he's got. So he doesn't have to close down factories and fire people. No? Is that a good thing to do? Maybe he just wants to leave the money as an inheritance. Is he allowed to give his children money? Can a person work for his kids? What if he's got 20 kids? There's a rich billionaire got 20 kids. All that money is going to have to be divided by 20. Shouldn't the kid deserve the same lifestyle that he was used to? Because here's something interesting that you will notice with the leftists. Most of them are against inheritance. They view inheritance like it's the work of the devil. I kid you not, right? But if you look at feminists, when they talk about divorces, when it's a divorce, immediately they're like, oh, no, the woman must maintain her lifestyle, alimony, 50-50, regardless if she was a housewife. No, she deserves half. Okay, but what about an inheritance? Why shouldn't the kid deserve the same lifestyle that his parent got if the parent wants to give that money to the child? I really hate these, is honestly no one noticing these disparities in leftist ideology? Am I the only one that noticed these common things that don't go well together?
And yet their employees have to be governments a year. And the case in point, the Walton family, right, that owns Walmart. Each member of that family makes billions of dollars a year, and yet their employees have to be government subsidized by we the taxpayers because they don't earn enough to not be subsidized.
Here, Jesse, on this little doll, can you show me where the Walton family touched you? Did they touch you here, huh? Or did they touch you here? Why do you hate the Walton family so much? The fuck did they ever do to you? Besides paying taxes, and making sure that you have a defense force, making sure that there's a police force to make sure that you're safe in your gated community, making sure that Obamacare is being paid, giving employment for people. What did they do to you that's so horrible? Oh, they're not paying people enough. Well, maybe government shouldn't give them subsidies. Did you think about that? Maybe if the government didn't give them subsidies, people will look at that job and they will say, wow, this job is paid quite poorly. I'm not going to work there. And eventually, do you know what the Walmart is going to have to do? They're going to have to hire to raise the wages because they still need people. Like Walmart, I know this is astonishing. They need people to work at them just as much as people need to work at Walmart. So if there's no subsidies, don't you think the wages would increase? Oh, but I know. Oh, hold on. You're a leftist. You're also advocating for open borders, aren't you? Oh, okay. So on one hand, we have government subsidies that's making sure that people are going to work, so the wages will never go up naturally. And on the other hand, you are going to have cheap labor coming from the outside that's willing to work a lot cheaper, so that people like you can then say, oh, Americans are lazy. These people are doing the jobs that nobody wants. See, that's the problem, okay? The fact that you admit that there are jobs that nobody wants. How about just not getting immigrants? Not getting people from the outside wanting to do the jobs that nobody wants, so that the people with those jobs raise the wages so that somebody wants to do them.
You work a 40-hour work week. I don't give a damn what the job is. If you work 40 hours a week, you should get paid enough money so that you do not require any government subsidy at all. Now, how you determine that or what that number is, we got to figure it out. But
we already did figure it out. It's called the free market. I mean, look at this map. The nations that allow their economy to go freely and don't intervene turn out to be the wealthiest. Meanwhile, the nations that do intervene and try to regulate the economy as much as possible turn out to be the poorest. The only exception to this are nations that have oil, and they can literally pull money out of the ground. But that will probably only work for a small period of time. The moment they run out of oil, they're going to be in big trouble.
But to me, if you work 40 hours a week shining shoes, washing dishes, whatever that might be, you should earn a living to where we, the government and the taxpayers, should not have to be subsidizing you.
Wow, that was a very emotional speech. Did you feel the pathos? I felt the pathos, especially when he raised his voice with shining shoes, washing dishes. I wonder how much he pays his gardener. I mean, he probably lives in a gated community. I think Jesse Ventura is quite a wealthy guy. He can afford paying the cleaning lady $5,000 a month. Do you think he does it though? Do you think he is willing to spend so much? The cleaning lady probably doesn't know what Jesse Ventura does with so much money. Like she doesn't even understand why does he need to have so much money? You know, why doesn't he give me more? But this is the problem with the socialists. It's always compassionate to think what other people do with their money. It is not compassion though. It's not humanitarian when you're forced to give money to other people. It's extortion. Charity is when people do it willingly. Like you convince people to do it, not force them to do it. But anyway, let me explain to you why this economic theory that Jesse Ventura proposes is quite horrible. Because it has been tried in the past. Imagine that tomorrow it would start raining with money. In your entire country, it just rains with cash. And everyone goes out on the street and gathers as much cash as they can. And at the end of the day, everyone has $1 million. Right? Every single American citizen has $1 million. Who the fuck would go to work the next day for, I don't know, $3,000 or $4,000 when they got $1 million at home? Right? No one will go to work. Because now you have a thing called inflation. You see, dumbass, money is worthwhile and it's valuable as long as it's rare. If you're giving everyone money, then the prices are going to go up. You know, people who are employing are going to have to start paying, I don't know, $500,000 per month if everyone has $1 million at home. And there's the problem. You end up having a vicious circle. So this is why it's not good for the government to start regulating these things and talk about maximum wage and minimum wage and all this type of shit. Because you're creating this problem. Why don't you just let economy work its way? And the jobs that are paid poorly are going to disappear simply because people won't want to work. Since it's not sustainable for them. And eventually, companies will notice, holy shit, we don't have workers. And if they can't import workers from outside, if immigration isn't possible, they're going to have to raise the wages. But an interesting thing is like shining shoes and washing dishes isn't really a profession, is it? It's not a career choice. It's not a life choice. It's only in like socialist dystopian countries where you actually get the person that for his entire life is shining shoes. In 2018 I'm talking about, not the past, by the way. So you have these professions where it did, you know, like you can wash dishes, but you're supposed to change that job. You're not supposed to be there all the time. Like it's usually a part-time job that students do. I mean, I worked at a KFC, gotta say. And that's what I did. I was washing dishes. But you know what? There were other people who worked there longer than me washing dishes. And eventually they got promoted to assistant manager. And those people were now watching how I was washing the dishes. And because they washed dishes for so long, they knew exactly if I was slacking off, if I could improve the technique in washing dishes, because there was a technique. You had to do it fast. You had to wash it fast and make sure that you're also on time. So eventually the assistant manager gets promoted to manager. Then you can be promoted to the director of the restaurant. And then you can promote to the director of region or whatever it's called. So like you completely ignore the fact of promotion. Like, yeah, there are people willing to do a job for shit pay, either because they are working through college and, you know, they have some time to fill and they want to make a quick buck, or because they want the promotion. And it's worth it. You know, the company sees the dedication, like you're willing to put in the extra hours, you're willing to work hard, and eventually they promote you. This is the glorious capitalist system, that people advance through the classes. You can have a lower class person advancing to the middle class person advances to the upper class, and the other way, upper class people going middle class going lower class. My family has moved up and down quite a lot of times during the last 30 years. But anyway, that's a topic for another time. I hope I managed to explain to you why maximum wage is a bad idea. So I would appreciate if you thumbs up the video, like, comment, subscribe, that type of gibberish. and I'll see you all on the next video.